Hello and welcome to Basic Zeus course led by myself, Private Art Barton of 12MI4, 4th Infantry Brigade. I'll be covering how knights are organised, the setup of those knights, the kits you should be using, the AI and how to use them, custom vehicles, IEDs and interactions when within an AI. Now, when you're watching this video, you should already have a basic grasp of how to do stuff in Zeus, such as placing down objects, placing down AI, etc, etc. I'll be covering what you need to know going into Zeusing a knight for 4IB, so you're better able to work your Zeus team and be more efficient on the knights, which is very important to making the knights good, because that is your primary job as Zeus. Your primary job is to make the knights enjoyable for the people that come on and let you Zeus their knights. It's quite simple. You do that through, other means of, imitating enemy force, imitating a civilian population, your basic Zeus stuff. But your primary objective is always foremost to make the night enjoyable for the people that come on. There we go. Now I'm going to be moving on to how knights are organised. Knights are organised quite simply. The rest of the unit usually gets on at 7 PM GMT. The Zeus team gets on an hour beforehand at 6 PM GMT. That is for both weekends and midweek ops. The reason you do this, even though the server only comes up at 6:30 GMT roughly, you need to be talking with your Zeus team, figuring out what the infantry's doing, what the Zeus team's planning on doing, what J3 wants you to do, etc, etc. There's a lot of stuff you need to communicate before you even get onto the server itself and start doing your setup. So that's why it's important to get on earlier so you can actually talk to your fellow Zeusers. Moving on to setup. So once you've connected to the server, usually you don't want to go into Acre straight away. It's much easier to communicate in TeamSpeak, so make sure your Acre plugin is disabled in TeamSpeak and until the server actually, or the operation actually starts, where the infantry starts leaving their base and it's actually a go, making it a live operation. So during your setup, remember you're staying in your TS channel, you need to get your personal kit sorted, you need to figure out what the other Zeusers are doing, start doing the stuff that you've been assigned to do or you've been trusted to do. So that's populating towns, doing interior buildings, making custom vehicles, all these other things you could be doing. So that's what you'll be doing in your setup to make it easier on the night, so you don't have to build something really quickly. You'll just have it in storage off the map, which is quite useful. So first thing we'll cover is the kit. The kit is quite straightforward. It will just take a standard rifleman loadout, and all you need to add is a long range radio into your backpack. So you just double click on your person, go into Arsenal, go into your backpack and add yourself a 117. I have already done so. As you see here, the quantity is 1. You then go out, make sure your radio is assigned to the preset of 29, which is Zeus's preset. And that is all you really need to know in terms of your personal kit setup. Get that done straight away so you don't have to worry about coming back to it. Now moving on to AI. AI is quite simple. You should know how to put them down, etc, etc. But whenever you place down an AI, you always have to go double click careless forced hold fire limited. That is what you do in Zeus for 4IB. You put them, especially for civilians, that straight away, because the default settings are these: aware, open fire, keep formation, all that stuff. So I'm going to teleport next to you and show you why this is a bad thing if you're planning on having a little bit of contact inside a city where you've populated it with civilians. If you fail to put them on the correct settings, any shots within like 300 meters, 400, it doesn't matter. They'll register it as a contact and they'll start, moving around, sprinting around, dependent on what they've been coded to do. So there's a chance they can just sprint off 5 kilometers out the map, and that will stop you from doing your job. You need to be reacting to what the infantry is doing, not what the AI is doing. And you can't react to what the infantry is doing if you're always bothering to worry about what the AI is doing. So, what you want to do is, remember, whenever you place down an AI, you go careless, forced hold fire, limited, and press OK to save those settings. For other entities such as Op 4, Green 4, Blue 4, put them on careless for your setup and like the simple settings. But if you want to use them like similar to a conventional, whenever you want to put them in play, you can adjust the settings to what they're needed in that situation. But for the setup and making it easy for yourself, set as careless so you can be proactive on doing what you want to do rather than you having to react to what the AI is doing. Right. Now, moving on to something slightly more advanced. Now, if you want an insurgent loadout for one of your entities, right? But you want it to be registered as a civilian, so he doesn't just do weird call out saying enemy front, enemy left, contact front, stuff like that. What you want to do is you've got two different options you can do. You can go into a civilian entity and customize their entire loadout via the arsenal tool here. Or what you can do is you can spawn a civilian AI, spawn an Op4 AI. I'm going to teleport myself away so I don't get shot at. Spawn an Op4 AI. Say machine gunner. And when you can bind the group one to the other, and the entities will always take the group setting of the leader of that group. So you hold control, you hover over the entity marker, you hold left click and drag, you get this chain which means link to, you want to link it to that and it will register as a civilian AI. Now you never want to have civilians grouped together realistically because you don't want to be walking around in a wedge formation. So whenever you put civilians down, just make sure they're by themselves. And the way I've just separated that group, I've just clicked, done the same thing, hold control, click on the entity, drag, and I just dragged it to the middle of nowhere. And that allows you to have it reset its group to make this its new group leader. Okay? And remember, whenever you put the AI down, especially for civilians, you do that. Brilliant. That is all that needs to be covered on AIs. Now we're going to be moving on to vehicles. So making a custom vehicle is pretty straightforward. What you need to do is get a vehicle. So you go into cars, let's say we want to make a Euro, an open Euro, or carry some like sacks of grain or something. It will always spawn with an AI inside of it. So you just click on the entity, you press G, which is the shortcut for get out. But you also want to delete this AI, because that AI will just randomly try to get back inside the vehicle. Even you send them somewhere else, its coding will decide, I want to get back in this vehicle, and it will literally walk straight through buildings to get in. So always delete that AI. Second thing you need to do is you want to get the object of what you want to customize the vehicle with. So I'll say I want to give it some sacks of grain. Sacks, grain. Heap of sacks. Now, next part of actually making the custom vehicles, you need to double click on the entity, disable damage and disable simulation. Then you hold Alt after clicking on the entity and drag with left click upwards so you elevate it off the ground. The reason you do this is because the ground, or the terrain literally on the ground, has a snap to feature which you can't disable in Zeus. So if I'm trying to lift it a little bit, I can only lift it to that snap point, or go down to that snap point. You can see it removes all that height. So the reason when you elevate it above, so you get more freedom when customizing what you want to put down. And then for the object, you do the same, disable damage, disable simulation. And you just put one on the other. You can press X to align it with the axis of the world to help even further, so you don't have any slants in your objects. You just want to make it align. You don't want to put it inside each other's hitboxes, so you want to make this as beautiful as possible. Bingo. And then you want to go into your modules, just this like cube thing here. You want to go to objects, you want to go to attach to, you attach the object to the vehicle. Object to the vehicle. It will reset its rotation, but you can just change that again. But you can't change its position after you have attached it. Then you want to enable the simulation and the damage on the vehicle first. Now you don't have to enable the simulation damage if it's just a visible thing you want to have in its back, but if you do want it to be interacted with, such as like weapons crates and other stuff, you can do the same of enable damage and enable simulation on the back thing as well. And you can then just get in civilian, tell them to get inside the vehicle by spawning them down, careless, forced overfire, all that. So you can just drag him into the vehicle, onto this entity of the vehicle. It'll get him in the driver's seat, and then you can just set him a point there to drive to. If it fails to drive, this does happen, you need to get inside the AI, start the engine, start driving a bit, and then it will start driving for you. And that is how you do a custom vehicle in the most basic form. Moving on into IEDs. Now, at this current time, we use a new type of IED. We use the EODS one. So EODS is a nice little thing. You've got a large range of IEDs you can use. But the basis is an object. So you spawn down the object, and then you want to use modules on that object. So you go to modules, you go for RB EODS, and you can say arm. So that will arm the warhead itself. Then you can bury it, you can blow it up instantaneously, you can call the ID, which give a delay and a sound effect in an area around the ID, and then it will detonate. You can hide the ID in the object, you can bury the ID, etc, etc. So I'll bury the ID, and now put it underground. So if you want to detonate it, what you do is if you're using a dicker, so like that's a civilian that's got spotting the ID, so like this, careless, and I want it to be crouched, so you see a little bit more hidden. This guy's got binoculars when he spawns in, so you can go double click in him and press B as if he's observing it. And if you've got a situation or a set scene like this, what you do is you want to use the call instead of just the detonate. So you want to use the call, which will give a nice sound effect. You hear the dialing, and boom, it will pop up to the service and then blow up, including any secondaries as well. So that's nice and straightforward. Now, because this guy's careless, he's still staying where he is, and he's not just running off. But in set scenes like this, you do want to put him to full, stand, and have him peg it. And he'll start running. You may have to get in the AI, move him a bit, and then he'll start doing your move order. Or you can wait, and sometimes he does do the move. And now he is leaving. So that is how you do IEDs, quite simply. Now, you want to be going into interactions next. So interactions are quite simple. So when you populate a town, and you're mainly doing it with civilian AI, you have two different types of AI, visible and non-visible. So if you have a visible AI, that needs to stay there, it needs to be given a unique name, it needs its settings all done, etc, etc. So if I start looking at it, it makes it realistic that there's a civilian population here. What you don't want is having just a visible AI and then someone putting 3 non-visible AI at the time inside a building to come out at a later date. Those can be done at that time. You don't need to spawn those entities in. The only ones that need to be spawned in straight away in your setup are the ones that will be visible. Okay? So the visible AI is what you need to know. That's what you spawn in. Anything later, if you want further AI in that situation or that interaction, you can spawn it inside the building out of view. Thankfully, the infantry doesn't burst down every single door and inspect where the AI is. They respect the fact that it's someone else's property and it's locked, and they'll take that liberty and spawn the AI and make the performance on the server better. And just a final tip, or if you hold control and then double click on the entity itself, that will bring you into the entity, and your voice is still the same. You adjust it and you can go talk. You do your best to put on an accent to fit the operation you're in. As long as you put the effort in and do a little bit of background research, that's what's important. You don't want to just wander up to someone's perfect English like I'm talking now and break their immersion. So you want to put at least a little bit of it in. It may sound funny to certain people, but as long as you're putting the effort in, that's important. And in terms of how the knights are pretty much a more advanced setup for the knight, it's like you have these base interactions. That's what you do when you react to infantry. But you also have the set scenes. So IEDs blowing up the dickers, that's a set scene. You know, organized scenes that's going to happen that you can bring into play before the infantry even leave. That's what you call a set scene. And that's what you agree to do, or you brainstorm in that time between 6 and 6:30 where you talk about what you think you're doing. So if there's like a set scene that requires multiple Zeuses for it to work, then the multiple Zeuses know exactly their role and exactly not to mess with your set scenes, because that's the worst thing you can do. You don't want someone else just wandering in and messing with your set scenes. So remember, careless, that's the fundamental one. You want to be reacting to what the infantry does, not what the AI does. Well, that's it. That's short and snappy. Nice bit of 15-minute video. But that is generally all you really need to know when you're going in to doing Zeusing for 4IB at this current time. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best.